Welcome to the After Dark podcast with Anthony James and Konrad. This is an extra episode for your YouTube comments because Anthony James and Konrad could not stop rambling on. What a pair of schmucks. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, welcome to a supplemental After Dark podcast where I'm going to go through with Konrad.
Hello.
That's him. We're gonna go through some extra questions that we didn't get around to in the actual main podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more theories out of him. That's what we all want anyway. Right, Konrad, you ready?
I am ready.
A stranger from the outside.
Right. First question comes from Jamie Jet, or Jamie Jet, I suppose, who says, "Who is Konrad's favorite character so far? And what predictions does he have for said character?" So we're honing in on particular characters now. So choose one, and then you can sort of give your ideas about where they'll go.
Okay. So I think I'll probably have to stick with my theory for the moment because I do really like Ellie, but I don't really have any ideas about what's going to happen with her at the moment. So
except for the fact she's not deaf and dumb. Yeah,
she's not deaf and dumb, and she's also a criminal mastermind.
Yeah. So not many ideas. Okay.
Just small little things. I think I'll probably say Enos to keep it with the theory I have about her becoming Mikkel's mum, and I think I'm really interested to see what happens between her and Mikkel as she learns about where he's come from and tries to help him get back to where he's come from, because I can see if my theory does pan out, I can see, so I'm already like 100% bought into this theory. I can see there being really interesting dynamics where she comes to love him as a son, but is also for his own sake trying to get him to leave her forever, to go back to his correct time. So I think that there's a lot of really cool drama that could be mined out of that dynamic, and I'm really interested to see where that goes in terms of the sort of crazier time travel stuff. I don't know how much of that Enos is going to see, although the Yggdrasil, if it is Yggdrasil box, certainly implies that she gets into some time travel hijinks, or is at least aware of them. But I think the drama in Enos's story is going to be really fascinating.
Okay, awesome. Next question. We've got quite a few questions this week, which is absolutely great. I'll try and get through all the questions every week, but it's absolutely great. So I'm going to go through a bit quicker this for the rest of them. Okay. But if you want to ramble for half an hour,
I know no other way.
I'm sure that everyone will appreciate that. So the Top Noob Pro, who we've had questions from before, says, yes. What do you think of the world building in 1986? What do you think is similar or different between 1986 and 2019, I suppose. Do you think the mystery of the cave will be uncovered? There's two questions there, but
so I think the 80s feels very real to me. I think the inclusion of stuff like the school buildings essentially being the same is both a kind of smart choice from like a budget standpoint, because obviously you don't want to find two locations, but also it really nails that feeling of going back to your old school when you're like in your 30s or whatever. Yeah. Like the buildings don't change, you just get older. Just to
say something about that. Personally, I mentioned in the first episode my general job is a teacher, and I have actually taught in the school that I went to as a teenager. And so I've actually got that same experience you're talking about on a meta level, and it is very strange. And I think they do sort of hit on that well in the show.
Yeah, and but I really like that kind of world building, rather than they do a bit of the 80s tropes of having Mikkel turn up in the 80s and there's that sweet bike that wouldn't actually exist in 2019, and and Jana's watching a really 80s commercial. But I think the way they the way they do it is very subtle, which I appreciate, because you can tell it's the 80s, but you can tell it's the 80s because it's the 80s, rather than because they're blasting 80s jams all over the place and everyone's rolling around with like Flock of Seagulls hair and stuff. And sorry, what was the other question?
Do you think the mysteries of the cave will be uncovered?
I'm getting less and less sure about that, because if my theory about Mikkel becoming Michael are true, then he never found the crossing, which means he had 33 years of trying to solve that mystery and he never did. So I wonder whether the mystery of the caves will actually be solved, or whether it will be kind of wrapped up into a bigger mystery that will supersede it in importance.
Interesting. Okay. Another couple of questions we'll just go through really quickly here. Because the top new pro has a load of questions here, which is great, but we'll just go through them quickly. So if you've seen a show that's a little bit like Dark in the past, like say one show that's a little bit like Dark, what would it be?
I mean, probably Stranger Things, I guess. It doesn't really hold up, actually, thinking about it, because apart from the first episode, it's not that similar. Lost, I guess, is the other one.
Yeah,
probably.
okay.
Like there's definitely some kind of tonal similarities with Lost.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, exactly. It's hard to do because you are really just going on themes and tones. You're not really going. There's nothing really the exact same. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yes or no? Do you think that the rest of Dark will be able to stay great for you? I.e., do you think that they'll not disappoint?
I think so, yeah, because the stuff I like about it is not stuff that's going to disappear. So it's not just the fact that it's got lots of really interesting hooks and ideas within the plot that interest me. It's also just really well written and presented, and I'm a sucker for something that's well written, and also for things that have nice photography and good editing. So I 100% think they can.
Good stuff. Then they've actually got a question for me here.
Oh,
first person. We're 4 episodes in. Finally, someone wants to ask me a question. So thank you very much. I'm very flattered. And they say, top new pro again. He says, I say he. Sorry, I'm assuming it's a he. That's bad of me. Sorry. It's top new pro. They say, how do you feel that it's been 1 month since Dark Season 3 was released? So I think that it's asking sort of, does it feel like it's been a month? So you know how like when you look back in time, sometimes it seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit of both. It feels like just yesterday because it feels like it went really quick. But I only started YouTube 6 or 7 weeks ago. I started YouTube about 3 weeks before the season 3 came out, because personally I wasn't happy with the options that I had on YouTube to sort of watch Dark. I've watched YouTube for years. I've always wanted to have a voice on YouTube, I suppose, and put my ideas out there. But it was this that kicked it into gear to make me do that, because I wasn't, the way I've put it before is the itch wasn't scratched for me in terms of Dark content on YouTube. Yeah. And there's a few people who are doing really well. So Pete Peppers does well. Lucifer Means Lightbringer, who's a Song of Ice and Fire YouTuber who has a second channel called Sick Podcast Creatus Est. So I think there is stuff there, but it just wasn't scratching the itch for me. So I decided to do it. And to be honest with you, I'm not the type of person who's going to make like a 1,000 subscriber thank you video. Like I'm not going to do that. But I'm very, very thankful for the growth that I've seen in the first 6-7 weeks. Like it's absolutely ridiculous, the support that I've got, and I'll just keep making good stuff. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks to Top Noob Pro for asking. Anyone else wants to ask me a question? I'm all ears. So one last question from the Top Noob Pro. What do you think goals that the characters will have? So I think we'll sort of maybe skip this part of the question. Sorry to be rude, but I think we will. But what I like is the second part of this question. Someone asked you this a few weeks ago, and I wasn't, to be honest with you, Konrad, I wasn't satisfied with your answer.
Oh no!
So we'll try and do a better answer this time, because I think you took it as like a physical distance. But the question is, how far do you think the characters will go to achieve their goals? I think it was asked about Ulrich in particular.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I think you just talked about like you think that he'll travel through time, but I think what they mean is in terms of going, how far do you think they'll go? What will they do? Will they do a bad thing? That's sort of what I'm getting at here.
Oh, okay. How much will they compromise their character? You mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that, Ulrich specifically, or just in general?
Well, no, it was asked about Ulrich specifically before, but you can speak generally.
I Ulrich is already committing crimes, so I think I could see Ulrich killing someone, if I'm honest. Like he seems like he has that in him. So I think Katerina, it's so hard to get a read on her because I haven't really seen much of her yet, so I'm not sure what she'll do. But Ulrich, I can definitely see him like fully becoming a criminal, like just leaving the police life behind and ending up killing someone from the nuclear plant or taking someone hostage violently or something like that. I think. Well, I mean, but we don't really know anyone who's kind of been pushed to that level of desperation yet. I guess Giannis's mum we haven't really met. But I'll be interested to see if the show like fully explores what it means to lose a child in that way, because I could definitely see anyone who goes through that behaving in that kind of way and being like pushed to those extremes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Jane Choi. First of all, Jane Choi makes a comment that says Odor and Freese, the two creators, need to hire Konrad for the next show.
Oh wow, Baron, if you're listening, I'm available.
Yeah.
Let's do lunch.
He's got your number. Then Jane says, she says that she suspects that you'll theorize on these questions anyway, but we'll see. Number one, what are Noah's motives for Elizabeth or Yasin? So basically, what do you think Noah's motives are with these children?
Well, assuming that he also sent Mikkel back, I think it's safe to say it's not good. It doesn't see, but I think,
and Eric, I suppose,
and Eric, yeah,
we just forgot about it. We forgot about him.
Who cares about Eric? He's yesterday's news. Yeah, I think. I mean, so it's kind of it's two layers of evil to me, because not only are they sending kids back in time, they are also, they seem like they're kind of grooming them for doing it, because they're meeting them and kind of getting to know them before they do it. Or that's my read on it. So, I mean, my theory with the hooded guys is that they're some kind of order who are committed to maintaining a certain timeline by sending kids back in time to fulfill certain roles or something like that. But obviously they're doing it against, or not. No, I mean, they're definitely doing it against these kids' wishes. But they're also, just completely disrupting these families. As to why they're trying to maintain a certain timeline or ensure certain actions happen or certain people are born, I'm not sure. But I think there's some kind of timeline that these guys are trying to preserve, and Yasin and Elizabeth are going to fulfill roles in that that we're yet to see.
Interesting. Okay, so second question from Jane says, actually, I forgot to put it at the end of that question. She puts a little comment in, which is great. She says, isn't it quite creepy that a grown man would give a memento to a random child?
Yeah, it is. It's hella creepy. Like I kind of, when I started this episode to give you a glimpse into how my brain works, I was like, okay, this guy's future Mikkel. He's setting up this Vanis Mikkel display in Regina's hotel, not for himself, but because he knows someone else is going to go and stay in that room, and he wants them to find it. And it's all some like long play to help guide someone from the present along to finding Mikkel and getting him back to his correct time. But now I don't know what he's doing. He's just stealing kids. I don't know. Like, he's awful.
Awful, man.
Don't trust Noah.
Okay, number 2. How does Helga come into Noah's plans? He seems to know Noah and whatever he's planning. Yeah, because he is saying all the time, I need to tell him to stop. Maybe he's referring to Noah, maybe not. But what do you think?
I think Helga, based on, I still haven't really figured out his ear, but I think someone may have tried to do this to him and like botched it, and that's why his ear's all messed up. So that's how he knows Noah. And that's probably why. Well, I think based on how he was in 1986, he was probably a little bit like slow, or a little bit had some mental problems before this ever happened to him. But the process of him being sent back in time, or someone attempting to send him back in time, definitely didn't help, and that kind of tipped him over the edge. So I think that's how he knows Noah, and I think he's maybe also suffering. I think the implication is he's probably suffering from dementia or something like that. So he's kind of fighting all these things inside his head, but inside him is also a person who knows what is going on and is desperately trying to get his body and his mind to work together so that he can actually stop it. Which, for all the fun that I make of Helga, he's one of the most interesting characters because he definitely knows something.
Yeah. Interesting. One thing I will say about what you just said is, did I hear you right in that you said that you think maybe Helga was potentially a victim of these hooded figures at some point and they botched it? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's how I think his ear got messed up. I'm not sure how you could botch it, but the fact it's kind of the wound on his ear seems to mirror not exactly, because obviously their whole faces were burned, but
Yeah.
it seems to sort of slightly mirror the bodies that have been found. Makes me think that maybe someone had tried to do this to him, or maybe he was like an early test subject, and that's contributed to how he is now.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Robert Barnt says, "Did you?" No, this is the comment that we mentioned in the main episode about the Franziska's German class.
Okay.
Yeah, it was it Gotcha?
Goethe.
Goethe. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, they wanted to know, what did you think about this topic being discussed? I think we've covered that. It says.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, but they've added into there, what do you think the significance of that sort of terminology that was being used has to the episode and potentially to the series overall?
Well, so I think as soon as they mentioned that it was Goethe that they were reading, I immediately started thinking of Faust and Faustian bargains. It's kind of selling your soul to the devil for power or something like that. And kind of like I said earlier, I don't know if, because what they were reading wasn't Faust, I don't know if that will come into Dark in some way, or whether it is very specifically just looking at the themes of the I can't actually remember what it's called now. I've got it written down. It's the Seaside the Sea Voyage, the poem. But I think there are enough people in this episode, both in voiceover and this teacher talking about this poem, talking about things mirroring each other, and how the beginning and the end are essentially the same thing, which is also mirrored in the Norse mythology, Nine Worlds, Yggdrasil stuff I was talking about with, Ragnarok basically leads to the world getting recreated. That I think the idea of something being mirrored and being set in a constant cycle is thematically very important to this. I don't fully know how yet. I wonder if we're going to get to the very end of season 3 and everything's just going to reset. But yeah, I think this is just used to kind of compound those themes as far as I can tell at the moment.
Cool. Next question from Will Duffy. What do you think the biggest question of the series will be? So maybe the biggest mystery, the biggest question. Do you think we've already been told or already been alluded to the biggest question? Or do you think there's something yet to come? What do you think the biggest question will be?
I think there's something yet to come. Now that I've kind of hit on this theory that Mikkel becomes Michael. So my first thought was from the first few episodes was that the plot of this first season was going to be getting Mikkel back to his correct timeline, which I'm sure that will still be important for characters like Ulrich and Katarina, but I think there's gonna, like Jonas for instance, he doesn't really seem to be investigating the cave because he cares about Mikkel. He seems to be doing it because it's a way of getting closer to his dead father, so he's kind of off doing his own thing, and I think there's going to be a bigger mystery revealed. I think it's going to be something to do with the caves and the nuclear plant. I'm really hoping that we find out what the nuclear plant is hiding and what's killing all those bloody animals. That's my big question at the moment, is what is going on there, and also who the hooded figures are. I really want to know that. There's a lot of questions.
Yeah. But as you say, if there's multiple and loads of these hooded figures, maybe it's impossible to know who they all are. But yeah, that'd be great. So Marvin asks, actually I say asks, it's funny, Marvin sort of puts his question in a sentence that says just what he wants to hear. So
okay.
I want to hear Konrad's wildest and most detailed Noah theory, just based on the 2 times you hear his name in episode 4. So we've already sort of heard a bit of Noah theory, but if you just want to go off the deep end here, just go ahead.
All right, I can do it. So have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?
Yes.
All right, so you know how Trunks comes back in time from a distant future where the androids take over the world. So I think Noah comes from a future where some cataclysmic event happens because of some minor thing in our present, and he has formed a sort of Templar-like order of hooded figures whose job it is to maintain and alter, where appropriate, our current timeline to avoid this cataclysmic event from the future. And that's where he got all his scars from, because he's been fighting androids in the future, like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z.
That is fantastic. Tell you a little side note on Dragon Ball Z. I watched that whole thing growing up as a child. I tried to go back and watch it with my wife. We got 3 episodes in, and I was just like,
woof.
I was just like, I don't know if I could do 600 episodes.
Yeah, there's a few of them, and a lot of them aren't necessary.
Yeah, okay.
The one where Piccolo learns to drive isn't super important, to be honest.
Yeah. Right, okay. Thank you very much, Marvin. I think that everyone's going to enjoy that answer. Lucille Lacroix. I think I'm not pronouncing
lovely. Good pronunciation.
I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but we'll just continue. Very simple question. Who are your favorite characters for now? So actually, just answer that quickly. I know we don't have to talk about any implications of these favorites. I think you mentioned earlier about, who did you mention about in terms of being your favorite?
I think it was probably Ellie, Enos, and Mikkel. I think
Enos, yes, Enos. So Ellie, Enos, and Mikkel would be your favorites at the minute, would they?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Probably not. No, probably those 3 for the time being.
I mean, Marta and Bartos seem to have just fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I was thinking that this episode, like, where the hell is Marta? Like, she's just, maybe she's off, like, she's hiding from Bartos, who's like hanging out outside her house.
Yeah, just gallivanting. Oh, she's actually in the bunker. We didn't see her. She was under the seat, under the seat in the bunker, hiding from Bartos.
In a sleeping bag with just a bunch of like canned goods.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. More generally, how do you feel the show handles the balance between the plot and the mystery, and also the character development? Or how do you think it handles the balance?
So I think that was an interesting thing about this episode, and also, you know, you might, maybe the people who are listening will pick up on this, but most of my like revelations and theories in this episode weren't actually born out of anything that was, or much that was revealed to me in this episode. It was more kind of reflecting on what I've seen thus far, which to some extent made this one of the weaker episodes, because it was just character work. But with that said, the show is super well written and really well acted. So even when it sort of stops the more compelling plot heavy stuff and actually does some character work, it's still really, really good. And I think the balance has been really, really good so far. Like it's not really leaned too heavily on one or the other. I think maybe the second and fourth episode are the most sort of character driven episodes, but there's bits of it in every single one. And you know, for instance, if they wanted to do an episode, I don't know, where you just follow one character around for the whole episode, I could see them pulling that off, and I could see it still being really compelling. Yeah,
it's as you say, it all comes down to the strong writing.
Yeah.
Obviously, these seems to be creators who are able to form a great mystery narrative where you really want to know the next. But it's also a real credit to them that they're also able to do the subtle, nuanced character stuff.
Totally. Like, and I think, you know, they know their characters and they believe in their characters, and obviously they've got really, really good actors playing them too. So it's a testimony to what they've created, that it's not just compelling because you need to see what happens next in the plot, but you can also take the time to see what these characters are up to and you know, believe how they're feeling.
Yeah, it's great. Right. Only a couple more questions. Another one from Lucille says, how do you think the podcast is influencing your experience of the show?
It's definitely making me analyze stuff more. I'm like watching it once raw, so to speak, and then going back again and taking notes, and then I'm kind of referring to my notes and like skimming through bits to just remind myself of what's happened. So I'm probably coming across either as like neurotic or far more intelligent than I actually am, or maybe far stupider than I actually am, depending on how much I get right. But it's an interesting way to watch something, and it's also quite nice to have that anticipation back of, you know, only getting to watch one episode a week. It reminds me of, you know, when I was watching Game of Thrones while it was on the first time, where you'd have to wait 8 months in between seasons or whatever. It's quite nice to have that experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's as you say, it's few and far between these days. I just will say about you coming across more intelligent than you actually are. I just want to state for the record, In real life, I know Konrad very well. He's an absolute schmuck.
Yeah, I'm a complete moron.
Did I use that word correctly?
We should ask Baron von Odor and Jonte Fries, like what's what they intended or what they think the use of the word schmuck in that scene does to their character.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but I'm actually not convinced that Franziska doesn't say schmuck herself. She might.
I'll have to re-listen to that.
Yeah, it sounded similar, but you know how it is when you listen to a language you don't know. You don't know what's just sounds and what's not.
Well,
right.
I know like little bits of German, so I do catch myself like listening in to the bits that I recognize, which is slightly maddening, but also really interesting because you can hear like the different accents. Yeah.
Das Mädchen trinkt ein Apfelsaft. That's all I know. That's all I know. You know, that's 3 weeks of Duolingo.
Nice.
Right. What's your last question from Marcy? What's your guess on how many? I like this question. What's your guess on how many characters will actually time travel throughout the series? So far, I think we've confirmed one. Maybe have we? I guess we've confirmed one. Like I would say in my head, Mads definitely time traveled as well. But we're supposed we haven't met Mads, so it wouldn't count him. I think there's going to be a few. I think Jonas is probably going to time travel at some point because he's too curious for his own good. Yeah, he's looking in the caves and stuff. Yeah, he's knocking around the caves. I think Ulrich may time travel. I think there's going to be, let's say, in the whole series, I'm going to say upwards of 20. Okay. By the end of it, there's going to be no one left in Vinden because they're all bloody in the 80s. Yeah, you think it's going to be like that thing where you're sitting in the middle of the third season, you look back to the first episode, you think, how did we get here? Yeah, exactly, yeah. Albert Einstein is in this timeline now. One of them's gone back to the bloody 50s. Yeah. Right, okay. Well, that's great. Thanks very much, everyone, for your comments. Hopefully we don't get... No, I don't know what I'm saying. Hopefully we get as many as we get this week that we got this week. But yeah, I love getting this many questions. It's it gives me a chance to come up with wild theories like the Noah Trunks theory. So. Yeah, exactly. And you know, and it also gets an extra video up that you guys can enjoy as well. Like we wouldn't have this extra video without all these questions. So as I said, I think in the episode, maybe I even said at the start of this, I love the idea of you guys sort of forming Konrad's path through the show. If you want him to pick up on certain things, ask a question about it. So you can actually inform how he views the show as well, which I think is great. This is unlike any, like I know I'm the one who came up with the idea for the podcast, but let me just toot my own trumpet here. This is unlike any podcast I've listened to. This is the exact sort of thing that if I wasn't making this, I would be loving to listen to someone else making it. Do you know what I mean? I love the fact that I've hit on something here that I think really is identifying with you guys. So as much input as you can put into it, the better. So keep asking the questions. Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, just to reiterate what you said, like thanks everyone for your questions. It really is, it does help me to kind of unpack my own thoughts a lot of the time. I think, you know, I come out of these episodes, particularly this one, feeling like my brain has been fried a bit because I'm taking so many notes and trying to keep so many theories clear in my head. And it really helps to have people maybe like pointing me in the right direction, or indeed pointing me in completely the wrong direction to see how wildly off track I'll go. Yeah, that's what I want for next week. Can one person, just come up with an absolutely crazy question that is going to send him down a rabbit hole that doesn't have to? Yeah, I'm more than happy. As I've already demonstrated, if you point me at the rabbit hole, I will dive down it. Like I've got no problem going down that bad boy. You know, preferably something about Skeletor, but you know. Listen, if someone wants to try and sell me on the theory that this is all an elaborate setup, maybe Noah is from the Masters of the Universe future, because they go to Earth in that movie as well. So, well, you never do know. So if someone wants to sell me on that theory, I'm all ears. Fantastic. Oh, there you go. I've said it again. Right. Okay. Right, Konrad. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everyone. Leave a comment underneath. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on Monday. Goodbye. Goodbye.